Meeting is now called to order. Good afternoon. May I get a motion and second for approval of the March 28th agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The board will go into closed session after hearing any public comments. Does anyone have a public comment on item 3.3, which is conference with legal counsel existing litigation? Okay, hearing none, we're going to go into closed session. We'll be back shortly. Thank you. Ready? All right, good evening, everybody. Quiet, please. All right, it's good to see so many faces here. We'll try to make it entertaining, but not too long. Leading us tonight in the Pledge of Allegiance will be Eileen Leckenby.
Please stand. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, tonight's closed session was 3.3, conference with legal counsel, and I have something to read out. The board voted in the case of Redondo Beach Unified School District versus Jewel Labs. The board voted 5-0 to accept the settlement offer. So that is my report out of closed session. May I get a motion and second for approval of the March 14th minutes?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Student advisory vote? Okay. Tonight's agenda was approved at the 4:45 session with a motion by Mr. Elder, seconded by Ms. Flynn, and unanimously approved. Moving to reports to the board. First, we have Eileen Leckenby.
Good evening, Board President Witkin, members of the board, Dr. Wesley, and Cabinet. I'm Eileen Leckenby. I'm the principal of Bernie Elementary, and I'm joined here by Lauren Smith and some teachers from Bernie to talk about our tiers of support for students.
Social and emotional learning teaches students the skills to manage emotions, feel empathy, establish trusting relationships, and make responsible decisions. It advances educational equity and excellence through school, family, and community partnerships. This establishes learning environments that feature collaborative relationships, rigorous curriculum, and ongoing evaluation. In working with students in K through 12th grade, I've become extremely passionate about early prevention. I've witnessed students experience social, emotional, and academic adversity in all developmental levels. From personally providing 13 different social emotional counseling lessons at Bernie to about 400 students, and working with the Redondo Union High School Wellness Center team to provide individual counseling services to over 800 students, it's evident that our social emotional programs are increasing positive student outcomes. There's a lot of agreement among educators, parents, and future employers that social and emotional learning is important. As you can see, 92% of surveyed executives say skills such as problem solving and communication are equal to more important than technical skills. 93% of parents say it's important that schools teach social and emotional skills, and 90% of teachers agree that promoting social and emotional learning increases student academic achievement.
All right, so the way we visualize delivering social emotional learning is through this pyramid. And so at the bottom is tier 1. Basically, we know all students are going to benefit from social and emotional lessons. And so we deliver these to all students in their classrooms with Ms. Smith pushing in. And then some students are going to need a little bit more, a little bit extra, and so we have some supplemental programs or small groups or lunch bunches for students who just need a little bit more repetition or extra support. And then at every point in someone's life, they're going to go through a crisis or a trauma, and we want to be there for our students with that intensive, like tier 3 one-on-one counseling. So I have an example of each of these tiers at Bernie Elementary for you. So the first one is classroom lessons. So Ms. Smith has gone into each grade level 13 times this year from the beginning of the year to deliver a social and emotional tier 1 lesson. This is what all students are getting. We base those lessons based on teacher feedback about what students need, what we see from surveys and data, and then also just from talking to students about what's going on in their lives. One of our major focuses this year was social problem solving. So when you get in a fight with a friend or a disagreement on the playground, how do we help solve it? And so we've all gotten on the same page. We have 3 problem solving coping strategies. You can walk away, you can talk it out, or you can do rock, paper, scissors. We're all consistent with implementing those, and Ms. Smith pushed in, taught those to students, and then she always assesses them at the end of those lessons to make sure that it was effective. So you can see, like, from one of our sample grade levels, 96% of our second graders were able to name those strategies. Okay, some students are going to need more, so we have an extra optional program that they can opt into, and this is called Wednesday Wellness Warriors. This started this year, and we have a wonderful parent volunteer, Jules Hogan Sahai, who comes in, and we have 89 students. They come to the field. We love to invite students onto campus early. They come to the field, and she leads them in yoga and mindfulness. It's a really great way. We know students who start the day with moving their body. They're set up to have a more successful day in the classroom, and it helps them just with that mindfulness and emotional regulation. And then finally, if a student is in crisis and needs more intensive support, Ms. Smith does provide individual social emotional counseling. Sometimes it's called DIS, so Designated Instructional Services, for a student who has an IEP for special education, but it could also just be a student who has something going on at home in their family life and they need a little bit more support. We also partnered with an outside organization, South Bay Children's Health Center, and they've met with 19 students with one-on-one counseling. And so we thought the best people to talk to you about our social and emotional supports would be the students and the parents and the teachers at Bernie. So we have a video for you.
Well, why yoga helps you in class and school is because you're learning really how to calm yourself down when things are stressing, when you get into a problem. And then, well, say to yourself, I just feel like a new person right now. I think I'm ready. Anything hard that the day gives to me. And then, well, go on with your day. What I like about Wellness Warriors is that she teaches us a lot of new yoga poses and things like that. I should just stay calm and everything will be alright. And sometimes I might think about doing like a squishy gets. Something like this. Squish. Study. If you use talk it out, rock, paper, scissors, or even walk away, you can have a more kind with someone, and you guys can work out a problem if it's like really bad or if it's kind of bad, but still you should always use your conflict resolution to solve stuff.
Yeah, I think that having the counselor here at Bernie to provide social emotional wellness with her videos, the fact that the kids can go into Google Classroom and check in with the counselor if they need to. She's available on campus all the time. All these things help students work through frustrations, work through problems that they might have academically, and they learn techniques such as deep breathing and how to work collaboratively with others. And I think all those things work together to increase their achievement. When they feel safe and when they feel like they have the tools to work through any frustrations or emotional issues they're dealing with, then that will help them be more successful and focus on the lesson.
Yoga is fantastic. It's their breathing under control and starting at a relaxed state helps them deal with the different emotions, the different big emotions, and how to recover, how to think about it, and that a lot of growth here. So hitting it from many different angles.
All right, that's the end of our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
I do.
Go ahead.
This is fantastic, and I've seen some recent presentations in our conferences about this type of tiered system. And part of what I'm wondering is, how do you check in? Well, let me see. Are you able to check in with each student each day as to how they're feeling?
Do you want to address that?
Can you clarify?
Yeah, like I know there's an emoji program where kids can check in as they come to school in the morning, and then the counselor would get, kind of a report where you can briefly look through it and see, so-and-so's not feeling well today, or let me check in on that kid.
Yeah, I know teachers can assess that during their morning meetings. And then we also use the Panorama platform for my my services. That's what I use to check in with the students.
Panorama?
Yes.
Okay. And do you see a big difference in terms of the fifth graders, for example, versus third grade and how you're handling the kids?
A big difference in like behaviors? I would say no. I think there's a lot of similarity in the behaviors that we see, especially on the playground. But
Are most of the kids opting into Tier 2 when they're given that opportunity, or do you have kids who aren't opting in?
Yeah. Occasionally, like we'll always get parent consent if it's like a lunch group. Sometimes parents are like, no, we're doing outside services, so we don't want to confuse the student. So once in a while, we'll have an opt-out, but for the most part, students are really, really excited to work with Ms. Smith. Like, they're really jazzed when it's their lunch bunch day, and so most students are opting in.
That's great. I think it's a really great model, so to share with everyone. Thank you.
Do all of our elementary schools follow the same protocol for services? Is that for you, Dr. Wiles?
They do, yeah. So Tier 1, we have lessons going on in all of the classrooms, kindergarten all the way through 5th grade. And then Tier 2 might look slightly different. You may not necessarily have yoga, but you have music therapy going on. It just really depends on the school. But you always have small group, whether it be lunch bunch, whether it be there's even our middle schools, you may see, it may not be the counselors, it may be the counselors all may be at TOSA who grabs a bunch of students and decides to go on just a walk to kind of walk it out. And then Tier 3, we offer one-on-one. In addition to the counseling services, we have South Bay Children's Health, we have Clear Recovery, we have a number of different outside entities to kind of really provide it when students are in crisis.
I was going to ask, at the kind of the end of the year or the start of the year, for like our 5th grade students, are counselors able to kind of have, or psychologists have a ability to talk to the next school up to kind of ensure there's a smooth transition and no one falls through the cracks who is maybe struggling in 5th grade?
Yeah, absolutely. We have great relationships with the middle schools, and so we're in constant communication. They've come out. The model is so similar. So especially students with like a 504 and IEP, there's like a structured meeting for that, but that also happens, for all students. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the students' panorama data will follow with them.
Lauren, thank you for what you do. I think it's just awesome. I've met our school counselor at Toledo and introduced her to Raymer today as well. And do you guys have a chance to get together as, in some kind of formal meeting where you're the school counselors, maybe especially the elementary, or do you blend with all the counselors and talk with each other and compare what's going on, what you're trying, what you're seeing?
Yeah, actually once a month, all the elementary school counselors meet. We have the exact same lessons that we're pushing out at all the different elementary schools, and then we also have time to collaborate or consult about specific things that are happening.
It's all counselors across all grades, or is it?
Just the elementary school counselors in our meetings, but I know that that's at the middle school and the high school. They do their own separate meetings monthly as well, I believe.
And then for 5th graders, do you do any kind of a handoff to the middle school counselors? Is there a process for that?
Do you want to speak to that?
A yes or no? Or
We'll consult with the middle school counselors before, if their students, like we have communication protocols even in our SIS system, so Power School, where they can see like, has a student received counseling support or what does that look like? So there are things like built into the technology, but also just those one-on-one conversations with staff as well.
Thank you.
Okay, Rachel.
All right, I have one more quick question. It's probably for Dr. Wilds. Do all of the teachers have access to the panorama?
They do. Yeah, they do.
For each student?
Thank you to IT, made sure that happened. So they all have their own logins. And that's some ongoing training that's in our plan to provide to teachers so that they can go in and see the unique, what their classroom specifically looks like.
Okay. That was great. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, there's apparently an outgoing board member recognition.
Apparently.
All right.
Sit back. Why don't you relax?
Go ahead.
So, yeah. All right. Well, we would like to recognize David Whitkin, our current board president, for 8 incredible years of service. And when I was thinking about what we wanted to say about David, I went back through my photos and through my notes. I met David Whitkin in 2014 when he ran for school board the first time, and there he is. Today, I walked through Toledo and saw that little baby who is in 3rd grade now.
Yeah.
That photo has my babies, who are no longer those babies,
Yeah.
when he was running for office at the time. And on the next slide, I think it's here, I love this statement. By the end of my term, our teachers and students should be as comfortable with tablets and laptops as they are with textbooks. That was a little while ago. I mean, we don't even think about that,
Yeah.
do we, David?
And I totally did not come up with that. I can admit it.
Well, I
8
pulled
years
it off
later.
your old
It was
campaign
probably-
website,
It was probably
so-
our campaign consultant, but it worked.
Yeah. But I just thought, my goodness, look at how you've accomplished in 2015.
Yeah.
So I do have a question for you before. There's a bunch of people who want to recognize you, but I am curious. That little baby is in 3rd grade. I saw him today, which is crazy to think.
Yeah.
So you've been with us when we first did Measure Q and had laptops in the classrooms. You've always pushed us to be a better school district, but you've always done it openly, honestly, and with humility and respect. And I've really never met anyone quite like you who's able to speak whatever truth there may be, but also do it in a way that is inspiring and respectful. And it's certainly something that we're going to miss. I know our efforts, because we ran together the second time, we're always about providing just the preeminent education opportunities for our kids and in technology. And I feel like you've got a lot to rest on your laurels. But my question is this: how did a guy from Boston, who was at Harvard University with Ben Allen, end up being a politician in Southern California?
Oh, God. So I have someone to blame for that. Todd Lowenstein
Okay.
was the only person I knew in Redondo Beach when I moved here. Like, he convinced me to move to his neighborhood, to have my kids go to his kids' school. And then he had left the board or was leaving the board, and he was like, David, why don't you just run? Like, your kid will be in kindergarten next year. You're interested in the schools, just run. And I don't know what I was thinking that night, but I agreed to do it. And here we are.
8 years later.
Or 9 years later.
9
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Well, I know that each of our support organizations want to come up and say something. I think I'll call on RBF first, Christy Bieber, and we'll work our way through. Doris Donley Richmond. You got a table, David.
Hello. So I'm here tonight on behalf of the Redondo Beach Educational Foundation to thank you, David, for your 8 years of service to the students and staff of RBUSD as a school board member. We recognize that your time on school board has been during one of the most difficult times possible. So many decisions with the pandemic and trying to balance what was required with what all the stakeholders wanted and needed. But what we appreciate most is that you faced all of this with a level head and always kept the kids and their education at the forefront. You've always been so supportive of RBF, which we at the foundation deeply appreciate. And so tonight, we would like to present you with the coveted and very rare RBF hoodie so you can continue to represent us in the community.
All right, next up, we've got Heather Willoughby from RVPTA.
All right. Good evening, President Whitkin. I would like to take this moment to thank you for your service to our community and to the children of Redondo Beach. You have helped govern us through an absolutely unprecedented 8 years, leading us throughout the pandemic, being a part of the hiring of our very first superintendent in 16 years, bringing coding classes to the children of our community, and then helping oversee some of the Measure Q stuff, and then really being an instrumental partner in creating and executing the lease of the Franklin property to the Friendship Foundation, all while serving with dignity and respect. We couldn't ask for a better partner, and we appreciate your membership in our organization. With that being said, it's my honor on behalf of the Redondo Beach Council of PTAs to present you with a very special person award for recognition for your volunteer service to PTA and the children of Redondo Beach. This award is presented today, March 27th, 8th, I don't even know what day it is anymore, 2023, and it's signed by our California State PTA President, Carol Green.
Oh, thank you.
RBTA, yes, Merlin Land.
Here. Oh, sorry. Hello. On behalf of RBTA, we want to thank you for your service and for your support of RBTA, and we wish you the best of luck and all that you're going to do in the future. And I did some research, and somebody told me, well, now this is confirmation, right, that you're a Red Sox fan. So I got this cute hat.
Oh, thank
not
you.
cute. Cool hat. With a, yeah, look how cool it is. Right?
Oh, this is fantastic.
Isn't it
Thank
different?
you.
Right? It's not just the big B.
Yep, this is great. Thank you, Lauren.
Okay, I think that Byung Cho, who will be joining us here at the next meeting in your spot, would like to say a few words now.
Good evening. I don't think there's a need for this timer, Mr. President Whitkin, today. Board President, Mr. Whitkin, board members Kaywood, Flynn, Nemeth, Elder, and Strassenberg, Dr. Wesley, Dr. Wiles, Dr. Stephanie, and members of our educational community and all our students here and community partners. My name is Byung Cho. On behalf of my family and myself, I would like to say thank you to our fearless leader and friend, Mr. David Whitkin. We appreciate your steadfast leadership of our wonderful district for the last 8 years. You, along with our dedicated board members and district leaders, teachers, staff, and educational community members and partners, improved all that is Redondo Beach Unified School District, or RBUSD. Not only you led us through hopefully the first and the last pandemic in our memory, not everything was perfect, but we did our best with your leadership and guidance while keeping our mission of putting what is best for our students at RBUSD. We also saw you at many Redondo-sensitive baseball practices and games with your sons and family with ours. You were hard at coaching our young people with all of us and trying to make everything as normal as possible for our youth. Your focus on student achievement throughout your service as our board member is much appreciated and should be celebrated as we look to our future, which is even brighter and exciting. Look at these people. It's very bright and exciting. I had an opportunity to attend an educator leadership event recently. The event had more than 60 educational leaders all over Southern California, many of them counterparts of our district leaders as well as the board. I received several praises of our district. I thought they were just saying things nice. I asked particular questions. There were sincere admiration of our teamwork focused on what is best for students at RBUSD. I was both humbled and proud to represent RBUSD. Not that ranking is everything, but they do tell a story. I love numbers. I know you do as well. Latest niche ratings of our district is fantastic, even better than before. They clearly demonstrate hard work put in by good and dedicated people like you, Mr. Whitkin, that put in the work you put in day out for years for our students. You have inspired others to do more for our students like myself. for our students and everyone in and around our district. We know you'll continue to be part of our community. We will lean on you for your wisdom and experience. We thank you for being kind to all of us, and we also thank your family for sharing you with all of us. Thank you. 대단히 감사합니다.
Thank you very much.
And representing the leadership team, we have Anthony Breedy.
President Whitkin, members of the board, Dr. Wesley and your cabinet, thank you for having us today. David, you know what this is about. I just want to thank you on behalf of leadership for your tireless commitment for our learning community. As you can see, I didn't plan this, but it'd be great if I could say, can I get a Seahawk? That'd be good. Can I get a oh yeah? Oh, yeah. Can I get a uh-huh? Uh-huh. All right. All right. R-R-U-H-S. R-R-U-H-S. Something like that. All right. That was a plan, but that's for you. All right. I know that you love baseball, so we have a baseball hat for you, Redondo, on behalf of leadership. And I know you're going to be attending some Redondo events, so we have a Redondo Union High School Letterman's jacket. Now, we do have your name on it because you're going to be around a lot of students with jackets. So this is so you know it's yours. You don't have to write your name in the tag.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So again, David, just thank you for your leadership here in Redondo Beach.
Okay, David. On behalf of the school district, we have two wonderful plaques to offer you. One is for your service as board president this last year. You get to keep that gavel you've been banging.
Yeah.
Close to you as a memory of this at the second time you've served as a board member. And we've also had made for you a plaque that says an award of appreciation presented to David Whitkin, Redondo Beach Unified School District Board of Education member, April 2015 to March 2023, for your 8 years of dedication and service to the students, parents, and staff of the Redondo Beach Unified School District. We thank you on behalf of the entire family, RBUSD family.
Thank you.
And last but not least, your board, current board, cabinet, and former superintendent, Dr. Keller, wanted to send you and your family off with something special now that you'll have extra time. You'll have 4 tickets to the Red Sox-Angels game.
Whoa.
With premier parking and the best possible seats you could
so
have at
nice.
Angel Stadium.
Thank
So
you, everyone.
I will forward them to you once you
Okay. All right. If I had known I would be getting so much attention, I would not have run for re-election. So that's enough for one night. I will have, surprisingly enough, a board member report tonight, but I'm going to save it for the board member reports at the end. So the next item on our agenda is the student report. Chloe.
Thank you. So to start with the mood, I would like to say thank you to Mr. Whitkin for welcoming me as student board member. You've been a great president, and the ASB and I would like to thank you, and we will miss you.
Thank you very much.
So moving on, the past Young Leaders meeting, we finalized the District Spirit Week, which will be the last week of April. The themes are going to be Minion Monday, Inclusion Day, which will be Twin Day on Tuesday, Unity Blue Wednesday, Decades Day, and then PJ Day. Congratulations to RUHS Drumline for getting second place in their competition this past weekend. Yesterday, RUHS hosted the 5th and 8th graders for Fitness Day. We've not had this event since 2019, and it was great for it to happen again. The students got to experience many different sports available at the high school when they come, and we can't wait for the class of 2027 and 2030 to become Seahawks. Prom Expo will be this Friday. The date, location, and prom court will be announced, plus local businesses will be on campus for the students to see. RUHS Theater Arts, or RUHS Theater Arts production of Les Mis had their first round of shows last weekend and will have their final shows this Friday and Saturday. Tickets are still available, and you can buy them at the door, online, or with any cast or crew member. And then finally, spring sports are continuing all throughout this week with many games and for many sports. However, they may change due to some rain, so just keep that in mind when scheduling. That's all. Thank you.
Dr. Wesley.
Well, I too want to begin by thanking you for all the support that you've given me personally, especially as I moved into this new role. And I'll always remember you as a board member who helped me with my first contract. So, yeah.
Thank you.
I really appreciate all of the support that you've had for me. So I have a couple of things I want to share during my superintendent report. And one is that I just want everyone to know, I sent a letter about this in February, that in Redondo Beach, we really want all students and staff to feel valued, to feel respected, and to feel safe on our campuses. And I really love that Eileen and her staff shared the social, emotional 3 tiers and the ways in which we do that on our elementary campuses. And we know that in our schools and in our community, there are times when students are mistreated, or incidents or actions occur that feel really horrible, exclusive, and could be even intentionally hateful. And we are always working to make sure that students feel safe and valued. That is of the utmost importance, regardless of who they are, what they believe in, what they represent. Every single student should walk through our school doors feeling proud of who they are and feeling accepted. And that's just really our non-negotiable in Redondo Beach. So the reality is, though, at times in our schools and in our community, students are faced with, again, actions of mistreatment or hatred, however we define them, and that could be different for all types of students. We have students here tonight. And sometimes that could be through a slur. It could be through anti-Semitism. It could be through fear-based comments, etc. It's unfortunate. And when it happens, we address it. We do not let it go unheard. And so this is something that needs to be addressed together as a school community. Redondo Beach is not creating the issue. We are here to be a part of the solution, along with our community partners and other school districts, and along with our students. I mean, actually, we need to empower them. But first, reaching out to parents and having conversations with their students. Again, I'm a parent of a 7th grader. I ask a lot of questions about what's happening at school and how does that feel, et cetera. So these are conversations that families should be having at home. Oftentimes these conversations could lead to remedies and solutions prior to it bleeding onto the school campuses. We want students to feel empowered. We want students to feel as though they can share any concerns they have, anytime they may have been mistreated, or even just speak up and say, hey, that's not cool. Hey, that's hurtful. And so that's part of the work, is really just empowering our students as leaders and giving them a voice and encouragement to, in a very appropriate way, explain to their peers that it's just not something that should be said or discussed on campus. And last but not least, we are working as a school community. This work has been going on since I was principal years ago, and it will continue to go on. But just making sure that we have events and lessons and discussions. Fortunately, our community partners such as the Ed Foundation and PTA and Beach Cities Health District have supported these events and will continue to do so. So I think it's important for our community to know that. The bottom line is the work is ongoing. And it will continue on beyond me, and I plan on being here for a while. So I don't like slides with a lot of words, but I think it's important to at least share, what are some of the things that we're doing. This is not an inclusive list, but one, we need to learn, first of all. Sometimes students aren't aware of their actions being hurtful. They learn them from somewhere and don't realize the impact. So it's important for us to teach along with our parents and families. We need to listen to all the voices and concerns, and we need to lead. And again, that goes back to our students feeling empowered. So some of the things that are going on in our schools is lessons. You can read the list, but some to highlight is we are fortunate, thanks to Ed Foundation, to send all of our 8th graders to the Museum of Tolerance. And given that buses are very expensive these days, that was a really big give. We're also fortunate to partner, to have the ability to have a Holocaust survivor come and speak to our students at Paris. That happened yesterday, and so that was really impactful. We are lucky that our PTA is supporting multicultural nights at every single school site. And the importance of that is when students feel that they can come, again, as they are and represent their culture. They feel more confident in who they are and can really be proud of who they represent and who they are. And that's what we want every student to feel. Again, we have anonymous reporting tools. We have restorative practices. You heard from one of our principals about the ways in which we have social emotional learning on campuses. I mentioned Second Step is at the middle school. And we are a part of the South Bay Coalition Against Hate as well. So we appreciate that resource. Just wanted to share, again, the Holocaust survivor. One of the 7th graders said, I've never attended an assembly where students were so respectful to the speaker. I know Dr. Wiles was there, Dr. Toronto was there. You could hear a pin drop. That's how captivated the students were by the speaker, who really shared some horrific stories, but yet very impactful. And as I said, there's more to come. There's a lot of work to be done. If you go to Adams, you'll see that they have a big sign up, and students can sign a pledge that they will not tolerate any mistreatment, et cetera. That's going on this week after they've had lessons. And we'll continue to have guest speakers and class lessons. Also want to put a plug in for PTA. Again, as a partner, they're going to have a diversity, equity, and inclusion forum coming up in April, and so you should be getting flyers about that. And so at the end of the day, we're part of a community, and so we are really, we want to make sure that everybody is aware of what we're doing as our part of the community, but this is also an issue that's beyond RBUSD. I also wanted to share a little bit about what's been going on in our classrooms and on our school sites since the last board meeting. That's always fun. I did start a student advisory committee. This is just the elementary portion. So remember, my student advisory is made up of 3rd through 12th grade. I meet with 3rd through 5th first, then I have a little bit of overlap, and then I meet with the secondary kids, 6th through 12. So the 3rd through 5th graders here, I try to let them kind of lead the discussion. They have a lot to say about the food, so we will be exploring that more with our child nutrition services. She's going to be coming to our May meeting and letting them sample foods, et cetera. Again, really hearing from the voices of our students is important. They are a key stakeholder. So I'll share more about that. Another activity that happens on other campuses, but again, thanks to PTA and Beach Cities Health District through grant funding, there's a program called Culinary Kids where students are actually, this is a 4th grade class, and they are doing a lesson that was tied into, I can't remember the unit at the time, it had something to do with the movement through the West, but it was tied into the lesson, and he came in to sort of teach the types of foods that they were cooking at that time, so that was a lot of fun. So the students at Alta Vista, we were happening to do a visit with a couple of board members, and they were having a glow party. Now, who wouldn't be excited about that? Every grade level attended this glow party for a period of time because of the membership that they had at that school. So the PTA brought some joy to them on that day. So I'm there with Mrs. Herkett experiencing some fun at the glow party. Every year, Adams has a Renaissance Day, and so this is fun. They learn all about, it's part of the 7th grade curriculum, again, bringing it to life. Very exciting. The city-states, I mean, just the whole shebang. So that was fun to attend. And last but not least, just yesterday we had an amazing program where all of our 5th graders and 8th graders were able to go to the high school and interact with our high school students for field day. So here's some of the teams. And then here's some of the other pictures. I just want to give a shout out to Marvin Brown. That's why I made sure to take a picture with him, as well as Andy Saltzman, who really put in all the time and effort to make this happen, to make sure every one of those students had a T-shirt, had 3 different activities they could be a part of. It was just a fun day, and students were saying, I've never been on this campus, so to be able to provide that opportunity well before they get there is very impactful, and to engage with students who are older goes a long way. So it's important to just highlight some of the many things that are occurring on our campus. And with that, that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you. The hearing section, members of the audience may address the board on any topic, regardless of whether it's listed on the agenda. However, due to Brown Act regulations, the board cannot engage in public discussions on items that are not on the agenda. Those topics which are brought to the board's attention may be investigated by the administration and a report made to the board, either publicly or privately, at a future meeting. Comments shall not exceed 3 minutes unless the time limit is waived by a majority of the board. And the board shall limit the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. With board consent, the president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation. So I had 4 advanced written requests. The first was from Sydney Weinbaum and Morgan Garfield, if they're here.
Hi, my name is Sydney, and this is Morgan. We are Jewish students at Adams Middle School. We have both faced so much anti-Semitism recently and in the past school year. We have filed countless incident reports, and for a while, things seem to go unrecognized. Recently, there have been swastikas drawn on the walls. Someone said this directly to my face, "How do the gas chambers smell?" Someone in my social studies class ended up saying, "I don't like Jews, I just don't," and all this talk about the Torah is making me uncomfortable. I don't know if he meant it as a joke or not, but it was extremely hurtful to me because he was disrespecting my religion. Someone made the shape of a swastika and they were laughing about it. I had to say something this time, and after I did, my heart was beating out of my chest, my hands were shaking, and I couldn't stop thinking about it in 5th period. I went to the bathroom, and I nearly started crying because it was an awful situation, and I had to go through it as a 13-year-old. These are just some examples of what we go through at school.
Every day, it's a struggle whether we hear these comments or not. Recently, I was sitting in science class. My seat partner was talking to somebody in front of me about elements because we had a quiz on them. He said that B stood for beryllium. I knew that was not true and said to my seat partner, "I'm pretty sure it stands for boron," just to help him out. He turned to me and said, "Shut up, you stupid Jew." I was so caught off guard and sat quietly for the rest of class. I then went to the bathroom and cried in the stall, as well as took off my Star of David necklace. This affected me for the rest of the day, and I did not want to go to science at all the next day. This is only one example of an incident that happens to Sydney and I, what seems like weekly at school. For me, my safe place is camp. I go to a Jewish sleepaway camp for kids. Or Jewish camp for kids, not a camp for Jewish kids. There are many kids who are not Jewish. No matter what, I always feel like I belong. I do not always feel like this at school. And if you think about it, it's really sad. School should be a place for everybody that everyone is a safe place. And right now, it's not. People don't know how using these anti-Semitic words make others feel. We know the district and the school is doing a lot that they can to help recently and teach us about this, and we are very appreciative of that. We wanted to inform you of our experiences as Jewish students at Adams, so together we can learn and overcome from this. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Next is Lisa Weinbaum.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Weinbaum. I am a Jewish resident of Redondo Beach. I have 2 kids in RBUSD. We just met, Sydney. And I also have a kid at Miracosta. I know anti-Semitism exists. I've been Jewish my whole life. It's been around. It's actually been around our entire existence as people. So some data. We were talking earlier about liking numbers. So according to some FBI data from 2020, Jews made up 57% of all religious-based hate crimes nationwide, and 64% in California, all while Jews actually only make up 2% of the population. So you can see the math there. ADL last week released their data from 2022, and if you haven't had a chance to look at it, it is online and available. Their tracking shows that 2022 had the highest number of anti-Semitic reports since tracking began in 1979. It was up 36% from the previous year, with California being the second highest state of reported incidents behind New York. In K-12 schools, there was a 49% increase from the previous year. These all include harassment, vandalism, or assault. Those statistics are pretty staggering, but we know they're low because what you heard Morgan and Sydney say weren't even a part of it. Those are just 2 kids' experiences in 1 year, so we can only imagine how many more go unreported or the kids don't feel empowered to say something. Which leads me to a couple of months ago, I was really frustrated. I knew that Sydney and Morgan had been reporting incidences, what was happening to them, what they saw around the school, and I felt that nothing was being done. However, after quite a few conversations with staff and district staff and school staff, I do stand here today with a different knowledge, and I want to acknowledge the school district, the district staff, the school site, the administration, and the teachers involved for really taking these steps. And whatever thing that Dr. Wesley just said, as a family who's experiencing this, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for bringing this, taking it seriously and taking steps to help combat it. There is so much more to still do. And as a Jewish member, I'm committed to fighting all hate, not just anti-Semitism. And I want to use this public meeting as our call to action. I think it's important to name each incident as they're happening and not keep them general. As it happens, we need to address it and we need to confront it. Not naming things, keeping it general, ignores the specific harm and hurt that each targeted community feels, and it keeps us from having these real conversations at home. So it's not up to just the school board. It's great that these lessons are happening at school. Let's go further. Bring it out to the community. We are all here to help combat this hate. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Call. I'm sorry? I didn't want to be in public comment. I wanted to. Oh, okay. Address 12.9.
She wants to comment on 12.5, is that what you said? Yes. You just call for it then.
All right, I'll do that. Okay, so I'd actually only had those 3 written requests to comment. Does anyone else have any comments on agenda items or non-agenda items? All right. Oh, go ahead. Come up to the podium, please. And if you could just state your name.
Okay, I'm Malia Natividad. I am a senior at Redondo Union High School, and I obviously was not planning on doing this, but in light of the presentation that was just up about like hate in RBUSD, I wanted to bring attention to the sexism that my basketball team encountered during our season. So I don't know if you guys know, but we actually had a record-breaking season of being 10-0 this year, and we made it all the way to the state semifinals. So we were pretty successful, and throughout the season, I felt a lot of pushback, and there was a lack of coverage, there was a lack of support amongst our students and staff. Our home games were consistently basically empty besides the people that I'm directly friends with or people on the team are directly friends with. Our student newspaper account actually posted 6 posts for boys basketball and never posted once about us, even after I had made comments to them about that issue. I ended up addressing this with our news, our staff, the person who runs it, and we've been trying to work on like expressing this to other people, because for women in sports, there's a lack of coverage and a lack of respect overall. And I just wanted to bring light to the fact that our school is not, sexism is a problem overall, and our school isn't directly trying to perpetuate that, but not being part of the solution is being part of the problem. And I think we need to be taking more active steps to make sports a more inclusive place and give our female athletes the respect and support that they deserve throughout their season. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, any other public comment? All right, we'll move on to communications. Is anyone from RBTA here who would like to speak? CSEA, AFT, PTA, RBEF? Okay. General consent, does anyone? Oh, sorry, Doris. Yeah.
Thanks. Good evening, President Whitkin, the school board, Dr. Wesley, and the cabinet. I'm Doris Donley Richmond, proud president of RBEF, and I have a few things to report today on behalf of the Board of Trustees and the Foundation. Registration for high school summer sessions and Seahawks sports camps are in full swing, and classes are already filling up. Our early bird discount for summer sessions ends on March 31st, so we encourage everyone who hasn't signed up already to take advantage of that. We're also excited to announce the reboot of middle school summer sessions. Some of the unique classes being offered are economics on the stock market and creative writing for podcasts. Our middle school parents will be hearing more about these classes later this week when registration opens up. I also want to remind everyone that tickets are now available for our RBF Light Up the Night Spring event, which will be happening on May 12th at the Portofino. This will be a fun, adult-only casino night event with food and dancing. We hope to see you all there along with the rest of our community to celebrate the end of another great year at RBUSD. And last but not least, I'm pleased to report that at the last meeting of the RBF Board of Trustees, our board approved a grant to RBUSD for the 2023-24 school year in the amount of $1,105,000. Our entire Board of Trustees were especially appreciative of the variety of programs presented, so this funding is able to impact an even wider range of students across the district than ever before. A very special thank you to Dr. Susan Wilds for her hard work and collaboration to make this happen, and thank you to the community and our business partners for always being supportive so we can do this for the students.
Okay, thank you. General consent, does anyone have any items they would like to pull?
I'd like to pull 10.4, please.
All right, motion and second to approve 10.1 through 3 and also 10.5.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Student advisory vote. Motion and second to discuss 10.4.
So moved.
Rolf?
Yeah, so this is a great thing, but in reading through it, the fourth whereas, I just can't reconcile that one. It reads, whereas the Redondo Beach Unified School District is committed to preserve agricultural land. And that really conflicts with just about everything else in this resolution. Ag land destroys everything you put on it except for what you're planting. Biodiversity goes from what was 100% to around 2 or 3%. Deforestation is happening at the rate of about 1.5 acres per second worldwide. 80 to 90% of that is the pursuit of ag land. So even in the time we're talking about this, a football field is about a little less than that, about 1.3 acres. And I own ag land. I grew up on a farm. I know what it's about and everything. It just does not fit with everything else here about Earth Day. So what I'd like to propose is we just strike to preserve agricultural land, leave the rest of it in there. It would still read the Redondo Beach Unified School District is committed to encourage activities that support locally grown food, which I don't know if we actually do that or not, and that maybe you can ask. I think we do with our lunch program, our food purchase programs, that we do have that, which is great. But the general ag land, another aspect of ag land, tobacco is ag land. I don't think we should be supporting preserving tobacco land. There's a lot of other aspects to this, so if the board is willing, just strike that one comment out of there, that part of it, and everything else is fine.
I don't have a problem removing it. I mean, it doesn't say GMO monoculture or anything in there, but agricultural land to me just anywhere that we're growing food, but I'm also fine removing it because that's not something we're really focused on either.
Right. No, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. So with that, I would make a motion to approve as amended.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Student advisory vote. Motion passes as amended. Action items. Motion and second to discuss 12.1.
Second.
Dr. Alpern.
Me. Yep. Thank you. Staff is requesting the board award to the lowest responsible bidder for the Jefferson CDC Play Area project to Dave Bang Associates.
Any questions or comments?
One quick question. 2 bids on this
2 bids.
that seem wildly different. 405,000 and 110,000, almost a 4-to-1 ratio.
We went back to both bidders to make sure that they understood the scope of what it was they were bidding for, and they both stood by their bids. It's unusual. It's unusual. Well, they have different products. So it's a play structure. And so we had, they had some different specs, but it's unusual. It's highly unusual, you're right, to see the range of.
From the limited experience that Dan and I had on the planning commission, the 110,000 for what they're doing even seems pretty low. So
We have worked with Dave Bang before. They do a lot of work on our playgrounds, replacing like blacktop basketball backboards and poles, and I think we haven't done a lot of business with them recently.
And there's a new play structure that's part of this too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the bulk of the bid, is that play structure. And it is being spent with CDC funds, and the play structure is in the CDC play area. I think maybe when we walked the campus, when I think the 2 of you
With
were
the CDCs,
first
yes.
elected,
Yep.
and we walked at Jefferson, and both of you commented on the condition of the play
We should have been
structure at
quiet.
the CDC.
Now we're spending the money.
So here we are.
Yeah,
replacing
the
the
thing
play
that stood
structure.
out to me was that wild. And just 2 bids were received. I'm taking
Yes.
it that's,
Yes.
okay.
Rachel, did you have a question? You're fine, okay. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Student advisory vote? Okay, motion and second to discuss 12.2.
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Alpern?
Thank you. The district this year received an additional $538,198 for student transportation, district-provided student transportation this year. That's in addition to our annual funding, this year being $1.319 million. So with that additional funding, districts are now required to provide a transportation plan. There's a template for it. I've attached the template to the board item. These funds, when combined together, account for approximately half of the costs that we expend annually for transportation services for our students with disabilities. The legislature's intent in giving us this additional funding was to expand our services for our unduplicated students, foster youth, homeless, students eligible for free and reduced lunch. And so it is referenced in our transportation plan. I think this is an area that will be a continued focus for us. It's an area of growth for us, especially when these additional funds still only account for half of the costs for our students with disabilities and their transportation services. So we are looking at partnering with Metropolitan Transportation Services. There's a TAP card that is program that we're able to coordinate with and potentially provide to our high school age students. But the transportation plan really wants us to look at what kinds of transportation services long-term can we look at providing for elementary aged students and families who have a need. So I've been working with Dr. Toronto, and I know over the course of the next year we're going to have more to offer. But this meets our requirement legally, but I think it's probably not our best work, and I think we can do better, and we will do better.
I don't remember us ever having approved a plan in the past.
No, it was not required.
Oh, so
So this is a
there's
first.
a change to ed code?
Yes. With the additional funds, they built in.
Okay.
And these funds are ongoing then? Or is it,
Yes.
these are not
that is-
one-time?
That is the expectation, and on an annual basis, boards will be required. There's been some discussion about, like, well, what happens if a school district, frankly, districts like ourselves that don't have a transportation department, believed up until a month ago when we were told otherwise that we were not required to put together a transportation plan because we don't have a transportation department. We were told by LA County Office of Education that everyone's required to. If you don't have a transportation plan that's approved, then next year we'll have an audit finding, and then the state will take our money back.
Is it correct that this is not for the buses, like for field trips and class trips? It's,
Correct. This is like home-to-school transportation.
yeah, okay. Focus purely on that. This is,
Yes.
yeah.
I wanted to just clarify where it says budgeted and we have no, and then you flip to the page with the numbers on it. Am I correct in that this is not costing us any additional money? This is more of a formality that we're now doing, but we'd already budgeted our share of this.
Yes, so we budgeted at the beginning of the year the 1.319 million. And we received additional funds, that $538,000. We have now included, in our second interim report, we included that $538,000 additional dollars that we're receiving this year. So it shows up as revenue on our budget reports.
In a nutshell, what's the total intake versus what we're spending out?
We
'Cause it-
spend about $4 million in special education transportation costs annually.
Okay, so this is just a part of the
Yes.
bigger picture.
Yes. Which is what makes, it makes it challenging.
Yeah.
Yet, we understand that, students who are foster youth or homeless or whose parents may not have cars or the ability to be able to get their kids to and from school readily also need support. So, like I said, we recognize, our departments recognize, our staff recognizes that there's work to be done.
And are we able to get the services reliably yet? Because that's been a challenge in a lot of ways. More or
I say
less.
we're more or less there.
And it's not unique to us.
No.
It's school-wide for everywhere. Okay.
Okay. Anyone else have questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Student advisory vote? Motion passes. Motion and second to discuss 12.3.
So moved.
Second.
This is
Dr. Alpert?
This is me.
Oh,
Yeah,
Dr. Wesley.
So this is a request to approve a revision to a special board meeting that was originally scheduled on April 5th in the morning, but we are requesting that we change that to Monday, April 3rd at 5:30 p.m. At first, we weren't sure if the city was going to be able to certify the election in time for us to be able to have it on April 3rd, which is an ideal date because then we can have it in the evening. And so because the city did certify the election, we are in time for us to have it on Monday, April 3rd. We'd prefer to have it on April 3rd at 5:30 p.m. So we are asking the board to approve this revision. We must let the public know within 24 hours, so we will certainly advertise it and put it on our website and announce it here if should the board approve this change. And just as a point of reference, the special board meeting is specifically to swear in our 2 board members that were elected by the city.
Okay. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Student advisory vote? Motion passes. Motion second to discuss 12.4.
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Wesley?
12.4 is a request to work with a consultant called 7th Floor Digital. They actually helped us create our logo that we currently have. So they would serve as an outside consultant to assist us with internal and external communications, just to improve our communication with our school community. In particular, I would work with them to send out communications to our parents and families monthly, just sharing news about our school district, things that are happening, et cetera, just to increase that partnership with our school community. They're also, you can look in the proposal, going to be helping us standardize some templates, et cetera, just so that we have more of a commonality with our branding as Redondo. They're going to help us manage our Instagram page, et cetera. They're not a public information officer. We're not hiring anyone, but they're going to be able to provide services such as helping us with press releases, getting those out timely when we want to announce great things, newspaper advertisements when we want to advertise, kinder, et cetera. This is their expertise, so we would utilize them, utilize their services based on this proposal. So staff is recommending that you approve this agreement.
The question I have, I see the dollar amount, how long is the contract? Is it 1 year? Is it open-ended?
It's open-ended, so in the contract it does spell out that either one of us can end it at any time, and so at the point at which we decide there's not even a 30-day, had they done any work for us, we'd pay them for those services, and otherwise it could be at any time. The idea would be to work with them for a year and reassess our need, so we would start effectively April, but it can be canceled at any time.
Okay, so it's just the $64.50 per month.
Correct.
Plus the 1.
Yeah, so they would invoice us monthly.
Yeah.
And so, for instance, I don't see a need summer, so they wouldn't invoice us over the summer.
It's a do not to exceed.
Correct. Yeah. So assuming we worked with them for a year, that would be the amount so that you could see that. But given that this is my first go-around, we will recalibrate and see what our needs are.
Yep.
Does this include anything of the website, or is that outside of the realm of this?
They said they can assist us with consulting with the website. I did ask them that question. So they said that the monthly fee is built in to help us with such work, such as I mentioned, press releases, newspaper ads, and they can consult us on the website. Would they be the ones to create it? No, but they could provide some consultation on making changes.
Okay, don't we have, seemed like there was a PAR consultant that was like $2,000 a month for somebody already that we pay? Are we?
Oh, so Erin, she goes out and she takes pictures. She's at our events. So she's essentially the one who's capturing all of this information when we have events. So she has a list of where she goes, and it's for so many hours a month. And then she helps us create the verbiage that goes with those pictures that is posted on Instagram.
So, but this one specifically includes Instagram as well, correct? So those two going to both be
So Erin gets the
coordinated?
content. They don't go out and get the content. They're not
Okay.
out getting the pictures. So we have to have somebody do that. Erin's the one who gets all of the content. So for instance, Field Day, right? She would come and take those pictures and write a caption, and then that's pushed into Instagram. But she's 7th. This consultant is not getting the content. So Erin is strictly getting content. She's also the person who videotaped the Holocaust survivor. So any type of content, then she does that monthly for us. So she has a schedule of where to go. She provides pictures. She has a stock of pictures if we need them for presentations, et cetera. So she's strictly about getting content.
Okay, and I'm curious, how did we come across this entity, and were there any other considerations of other entities to do this? Was it a down select at all, or?
No, so there was, we worked with them, we went through a whole process and worked with them when we redid our logo prior to COVID. So that's how we initially developed a partnership with them. Yes, we considered another proposal, which I didn't believe met the needs of our district. So this is the one that I felt is going to best serve us based on what I believe would be the best way to communicate with our community, et cetera.
Yeah, this will end up being probably around $100,000 a year because there's a lot of incidental things that aren't included in the cost that will become part of this. There's a whole list of them in here.
No, so we're not going to be charged more than a monthly fee. So I'm not sure what you're referencing.
Yeah,
there's no add-on costs. So the
well,
fee is
under budget and schedule, it lists the things that would be add-ons. Estimate does not include third-party fees, technology licensing, hosting fees, additional software technology fees, applicable shipping.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
won't be.
shipping,
That's simply them stating that they're not responsible for that, but we're not utilizing them for those services. As you can see, we have somebody who gets the content for us. So that's not the role that they're playing. So the proposal is for the monthly fee that you see here. And that's why we put the not to exceed amount. There's no, additional fees on top of that. So I will share that most districts have a public information officer that is well over $100,000. That's not what we're asking for. We're asking for someone to help us improve the efficiency of communicating and editing, et cetera, in a format that is well received and well identified by our stakeholders.
How long do you see it going on? Do you have an initial estimate of?
Well, when I met with them, I said, let's, again, reevaluate month to month. And so I'd like to work with them for a year and really just have an understanding. They're working with us. If we find that we don't need them as much, then that monthly fee will come down. But it won't go up. So the only way it'd go up is if in a year from now I'm coming back to you to ask for it, to increase it. So that's why we have that threshold. But I would like to work with them for a year and then reassess.
I think having the consistent communication and also proactive communication is something that is certainly going to be helpful. I know that's something parents and students and a lot of people ask for. One piece I'd be interested in is there's some pieces that are specific just to Instagram, but if we want to explore other social media outlets, I think that would be relatively trivial in most cases. So branching out a little bit potentially. But I do think that communication is critical, particularly, we have a lot of over-communication because parents are buried under things, so having it very concise, but also this is the important stuff out there. That's really going to help parents, students, families, teachers, staff, everyone understand what's going on without being buried.
Yeah, and identifiable. That's part of this as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
So are there metrics for success, or is it just kind of how you see it going, whether or not you continue? Or
So they help us with the messaging and the content, but they're not sending it out for us. We're doing that through IT. I want to have the ability to approve all messaging before it goes out.
Right.
And then be in control of, so they will not have any access to any of our emails, et cetera. They just strictly work on the actual messaging that is going out.
Understood. I'm just asking, how do you measure whether or not this is worth it? It sounds like it's just basically up to you and how it's going.
I would say feedback. I mean, feedback from our parent community. They're not receiving a monthly email from the superintendent at this time. So, hearing from our stakeholders, trying to figure out whether or not it's helpful or if it's useful. But I think it's a way to try to connect with our stakeholders and really share information that they may not receiving from a district level.
And it would be okay if you were the one deciding over the course of the year.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Bargain or not.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm just wanting to understand it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Questions, comments? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Student advisory vote?
And I'll record as a no.
Okay. Motion passes 4-1. Motion and second to discuss 12.5.
So moved.
Dr. Wesley?
Yeah, this is,
Yeah, do you want to take the podium? Sure.
Hello, my name is Karen Cull, and I am one of your 2 representatives on the Southwest SELPA Community Advisory Committee. In this packet of board policies, you have the first 2 pages which refer to the board policy on your membership of a SELPA. And so I'm just really taking the opportunity to talk to you about your membership of Southwest SELPA, since it's coming across your table. It doesn't come across your table very often. I'm very proud of our district having moved towards more inclusive practices. I don't necessarily see that in the other 11 districts in Southwest SELPA. I know that for many of you, you don't really know what SELPA does or why it's there. What I want you to know is that you do have an influence on how Southwest SELPA is designed, is constructed, and how it spends its money. Southwest SELPA is governed by a board which is called the Council of Superintendents. Your superintendent sits on that. It's a Brown Act meeting. Doesn't always occur every month. It's very difficult for the public to attend, and it's not televised. A second thing you may not know is that Southwest SELPA is a funding agency. It receives the funds from the California Department of Education, the funds that they send for special education. And up to a few years ago, that ranged from $400 per ADA to $900 per ADA. The governor over the last 3 and 4 years has tried to equalize that amount. So now each SELPA gets at least $820 per ADA. Now, if you think that that's per ADA, but only about 12% of your ADA is students with disabilities, so that's quite a lot of money that he has increased. But that money goes to SELPA, and then SELPA gives it to you. So, are you getting your $820? I'd like you to find out. I'd like you to ask if that money, that increased money, is going to increase spending on special education, or if it's going to reduce what we used to call the encroachment, right? And I'd like you to find out if it's not coming here and if it's not going to special education, where it is going. And is it going on students in other districts not having inclusive practices? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Whitkin?
Yes.
Can I just speak to the agenda
Yes,
item
sure.
there? I serve on the Finance Committee for the SELPA, so should the board have questions about the special ed money that is coming to the SELPA and then coming to the district, I'd be happy to answer your questions.
Okay. All right. Does anyone have any comments or questions on these regulations or board policies?
I just thank Dr. Wesley or Anais, whoever took care of the changes to BP board bylaw.
9220.
Yeah. Cleaned it up. That's taken care of. I didn't know other changes were made. This is just second
No.
reading for everything.
Yeah, we called and verified with the city. Inez called and verified with the city, and then we made that change. So that'd be Ms. Campos.
Appreciate that.
Did that.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Student advisory vote? Aye. All right. Attendance reports, Dr. Alpern.
I'm happy to report once again that attendance is improving. I know that not every parent or student is necessarily pleased to get these parent letters at their home about how important attendance is, but it is changing behavior. And we like to see that, and I think that the investment that we made with the partnership of A2A, the company that we're working with to really focus on improved attendance, is having an impact, and it is paying off. And it's great to highlight that positive news.
And I just wanted to highlight, because I was curious, the 113th day that you see, that's Friday, February 24th. And so we need all students to come to school on Fridays, even though we know that there's a lot of snow in Mammoth, but it does make a difference. And so that, just wanted to point that out.
Those dips are the same, yes.
All right. Rachel?
I'm glad you brought up the letters, because I cannot tell you how many complaints I hear about these letters from parents. And, you know, clearly, if it affects you, then read the letter and take it to heart. If it doesn't, it can go in the circular file. But thank you for at least bringing that up, because we did retain the company to help us bring this under control.
And do you really think it was the letters and maybe not?
We should say yes.
Yes. I do. I think we've seen the greatest impact at the elementary schools, which is good, because we have them for longer. So establishing those habits when they're in elementary school is important.
Well,
And for seniors.
We're kind of getting past the leftovers of COVID too. I mean, it's still
Yes.
out there, but that's
Yes.
really tapering off. But to
For
see us
sure.
back up in that high 90s rather than below 95 is it's good news for many reasons.
Okay. Moving on, does anyone have any correspondence they would like to share? Okay, board member reports. Mr. Elder?
Well, since it's your last meeting, I just want to say I'm sorry we didn't get to spend more time serving together. You're a man of a few words, but you've always led by example. One of the things I found is there's no ego. You don't think about yourself, you think about what's best for students with every decision. You're laser focused on this good to great philosophy, and that's exactly what a leader should be. Everything you do is driven by how do we support our students in the best way possible with the resources we have. And so I really appreciate that. There's just this quiet determination about you to get the job done, whatever it takes. And that's going to be missed. So really, really appreciate your leadership and everything you've done for us on the board and for our students, most importantly.
It's very kind, thank you.
Beyond that, though, on the legislative side, Senate Bill 381, this is this bill to have a traffic study for e-bike safety. That was in the Senate Transportation Committee today. There was a hearing. Tried to dial in, didn't quite work, but they didn't have quorum for a while. It was a bit of a mess. But our Senator Ben Allen did vote yes to advance this. So from what I understand, I think it's moving forward.
It is.
Excellent.
Confirmed, passed unanimously.
Perfect. Excellent. So that was good. Thank you, Dr. Wesley, for the letter of support. I was also shared with Senator Allen's office. So it's always good to get connected with those things. Other things that have happened, went on a data center tour with Mrs. Garcia. It's very good to see because there's a lot of modernization that we may want to look at. So we have both a more resilient and less costly environment ultimately, as well as more secure. So there's a lot of opportunities to improve there and kind of move the district forward. And we'll go through that, I'm sure, more in the future. But appreciate all the school site visits we've been able to go on and see kids in classrooms learning. That's what we're all here for. A couple of things, though, that I just wanted to highlight. The Lincoln STEM Week and their science night was just outstanding. It was amazing to see what these students came up with. Beach Cities Robotics was there showing off the robot they have at the high school for our elementary kids and really getting them excited about what comes next. And, going to see Les Mis this past weekend, just an incredible performance, what they're doing on stage, off stage, and it's all led by students. Just amazing. And Fitness Day, same thing. You have these student athletes leading our 5th and 8th graders through there and really showing them. Ultimately, our students are capable of so many incredible things if we give them the opportunities. And that's what our job is here, is to give all of you the opportunity to be as successful as possible. So I really appreciate all of our teachers, our staff, our parent volunteers, our PTAs, Ed Foundations. Everyone is working so hard to make that happen. because, you know, our students are worth it. You know, we're here to see you grow and flourish and thrive. So thank you to everyone staying focused on that. And thank you, Mr. Whitkin, for your service to the board and for all of our students.
Great. Thank you. Ms. Flynn.
All right. I will echo my thanks for the last 4 years have been interesting. Is one way to put it. Challenging, so you will be missed. Thank you for your service. And I am honored and humbled to be reelected to serve with Mr. Cho on the school board and look forward to working with all of you. That's it.
Yes. Mr. Stressenberg.
David, thank you. 8 years is a lot to give. Looking back, it probably seems really quick. It felt like we had board meetings that were longer than 8 years at different times. But that's a huge amount of service. I appreciate that. My respect for you really shot up even before I was elected, when I was watching the board meeting where you were having a discussion whether or not to reopen schools. And that was a tough discussion. And I believe you were in a 3-2 minority, but you held your ground and made your case, and that was great to see that. I think Rachel and Dan and I all thought, yay, that's all over, we're good, we're in. And it didn't exactly pan out that way, but we're through that, and we're stronger for the next challenges that come up, whatever they may be. But sincerely, thank you for your 8 years. It's a lot to give to your community, and that's appreciated. On the SoCal Rock front, just to report out, happy to report we have 33 high school students from RUHS going to a site visit at SoCal Rock tomorrow. It'll be the first that we've done that. I think that's a great turnout for the first one done. These will be 9th, 10th, and 11th graders going to see the facility and check it out in person. Also, that's tomorrow afternoon, in the earlier afternoon. Also tomorrow afternoon, starting I think at 4:30 it is the REAL competition, which is REEL, where students from all the different JPA high schools, the area high schools that are members of SoCal Rock, were invited to come and make their own video documentaries of what happens at SoCal Rock. Interview the students, see the facilities, put it into video format that can be put out. Pleased to announce that Redondo leads in that with 3 individual and 2 teams signs up to do that. There it is, a competition with $1,000 and a $500 prize. Those will be announced at the Night of All-Stars for SoCal Rock, which will be the next month on the evening of the 27th, I believe. So great to see that and the support going on that. Also on the SoCal Rock front, the superintendent search application window has closed. The board will meet Monday morning, this coming Monday, to consider all the applicants and which ones will proceed forward to interviews. So that process is moving along. And that's it. Thank you.
Rachel?
Yeah. It's been briefly said, and I cannot say enough. If you have not gone to see Les Mis, you have to go. This production was fantastic. Dr. Wesley and I got to go together, and I brought my niece, who I thought would be bored out of her mind. She loved it, maybe the gummy bears too, but she loved it. And just as I was with Mamma Mia, I was blown away by the talent that we have at Redondo. Not just the kids on the stage, but the orchestra and behind the scenes. And it was like over 100 kids were involved in this production. The orchestra was student-led. It was all live music. It was fantastic. So if you haven't gone, or if you're going, you have something to look forward to. David, I've been sitting next to you for 2 years now. I'm going to really miss you. I won't miss you banging your gavel in my ear, but besides that,
someone else will,
you know,
or
I'm sure.
Maybe you'll be doing
sure.
it. Yeah.
But thank you for everything and all your support.
Thank you very much. All right, so I am going to break from my own tradition and actually give a report tonight at my final meeting. First, I'll start with some thank yous and then a few observations from the last 8 years. So thank you, of course, to the people in this room. Obviously, my fellow board members, I'm honored to have served with all of you. In particular, Raymer, who was around through COVID with me and demonstrated true leadership and grace in tough times. I'll miss all of you. Also want to thank Dr. Wesley, Dr. Alpern, Dr. Wilds, Dr. Stephanie, Inez, Susanna. I've become friends with you over the years. I will miss you, but we'll be in touch. Annette and I will be sharing book ideas for years to come, I'm sure. Dr. Toronto, I'm assuming, is somewhere in the building. I still owe you lunch. Thank you to all the principals and teachers who've supported me over the years, especially Marvin Brown. RBUSD is a special community, and many of the people I mentioned will be my friends for life. Also, thank you to some very important people who aren't here. Dr. Stephen Keller, of course, the incomparable Ricardo Gallegos, former board members Anita Averick, Mike Christensen, Brad Waller, and Brad Serkin. Your love for the district rubbed off on me years ago, and you are my role models and mentors on the board. Also to others who left an indelible mark on the district and whom I consider friends. Kenny Pearson, Tom Steckel, Sarah Robinson, Monica Joyce, Karen Moore, Todd Lowenstein, Derek Kinsey, and Janet Rodella. And if I left anyone out, please forgive me. Thank you to my family for loaning me out every other Tuesday for 8 years, to the voters who elected me, and to the many parents and students for whom I advocated and who supported me. So a few observations from 8 years. When I was first elected, I was frequently told 3 things by other board members and people in the community. One of them I believe to be false, and the other 2 I confirm are true. The first thing that many told me is that being a school board member gives one power or influence. I disagree. A seat on the board only entitles someone to 1 out of 5 votes, most of which are not controversial anyhow. For the votes that really matter, having a vote is better than having no say at all, but really a lone vote has no practical impact if the board member can't bring others around to support his or her view. In my opinion, I was part of 2 very consequential votes during my tenure. In the first one, which I think was my proudest individual moment on the board, I voted to reopen schools, made what I thought were factual, logical, and compassionate arguments, and lost that vote 1-4. What being a board member really gets you is access. People will listen to you, whether they're the superintendent, principals, teachers, parents, or other board members. They'll listen even if what you're saying isn't very smart. They'll pick up your calls. But getting one's vision enacted requires cajoling, sometimes nagging, persistence, and patience. On that note, I found that this access is not exclusive to board members. Some advice I have for the public, too, is that real change happens outside of board meetings. Everyone in the district office and in administration in RBUSD is incredibly responsive and accessible to parent and student outreach. Making the leap from ideas, emails, and calls, though, to actually enacting change is the real work for board members and interested parents. The second observation is that board members get out of the role what they put into it. I agree with this 100%. I'd put it a different way, though. Every board member has a different vision and objective for what they want out of their term. My focus was student achievement. At first, being an elected official was also exciting, but that lasted about 2 weeks. For the next 7 years and 50 weeks, the true satisfaction I gained was working behind the scenes to obtain tangible results and wins for students. Our middle school enrichment and computer science classes are 2 examples of this. In part, these arose out of collaboration between me and another parent at Paris in several meetings we had with Dr. Wilds. The lesson from this and other experiences is that the leadership at RBUSD is absolutely willing to work with parents and students to achieve positive change. But I highlight the word work. It is not easy. Finally, the third observation is that by far the most important job of a board member is the hiring and oversight of a superintendent. I agree with this 1,000%. And if I have one legacy after 8 years, it is having been board president when we oversaw the transition from Dr. Keller, who spent 16 years taking RBUSD to new heights as a district, to the selection and appointment of Dr. Wesley, who, like me, has unapologetically made student achievement her #1 priority for the district. I assure every parent, now and future RBUSD parent, that as long as Dr. Wesley is superintendent of schools, you have an ally in providing the best possible education and preparation for your kids' life and career success. I mentioned I had 2 consequential votes as a board member. I lost one of them, but I was on the right side of this one, the hiring of Dr. Wesley, and for me to have been instrumental in that vote was by far the most impactful thing I did in my 8 years, and I thank my fellow board members for that honor. So congratulations to Byung, who will join the board next week, and thank you everyone for these great 8 years. So with that, calendar of events. We have the swearing in, April 3rd, spring break, April 10th through 14th, and then our first regular board meeting after spring break is April 25th. Does anyone have any future agenda items or information they would like to request? Okay. Motion and second to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Student advisory vote. Aye. Meeting's adjourned.